The Israel-Palestine conflict is a century-old struggle over land, identity, and self-determination, rooted in competing national aspirations of Jews and Arabs in historic Palestine.
In 1917, the British Balfour Declaration supported a Jewish national home in Palestine, seen by Zionists as a step toward statehood, but by Arabs as a threat to their majority presence. As the First World War ended, British and French forces occupied much of the Middle East, and the centuries.
Under British rule, from 1917 to 1947, tensions rose with Jewish immigration fleeing persecution, while Palestinians feared displacement, leading to riots and revolts from both communities.
In 1947, the United Nations proposed partitioning Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states. Jewish leaders accepted the plan as a path to independence, while Arab states rejected it, viewing the division of their land as unjust.
On May 14, 1948, Israel declared independence, celebrated as a rebirth of a homeland by Israelis, but marking the Nakba, or catastrophe, for Palestinians, with mass displacement.
The 1948 Arab-Israeli War ensued, with Arab armies intervening. Israel gained territory, while 700,000 Palestinians became refugees, attributing it to expulsion or flight amid fighting.
Arabian armistice agreements in 1949 left Israel controlling 78% of Mandate Palestine. Jordan held the West Bank, and Egypt administered Gaza. No Palestinian state emerged.
In the 1950s, Palestinian Fedayeen crossed from Egypt and Jordan, carrying out raids that killed Israelis in their homes and fields. Israel struck back, mounting reprisals like the attack on the village of Kibbutz, where over 60 Arabs were killed. Each cycle of bloodshed deepened.
The 1956 Suez Crisis saw Israel invade the Sinai Peninsula, coordinated with Britain and France seizing positions along the canal. To Israelis, the move was a defense against mounting threats to the Arab world. It appeared as outright aggression. International pressure and United
Liberation. In 1959, Yasser Arafat founded Fatah, advocating armed struggle for Palestinian liberation. In 1964, the Palestine Liberation Organization was established by the Arab states.
The six-day war began with Israel's preemptive strikes. It captured the West Bank, Gaza, East Jerusalem, and the Golan, seen as liberation by Israelis, but occupation by Palestinians.
The UN Resolution 242 called for land in exchange for peace after the war. As hopes for a settlement lingered, Palestinian factions organized resistance groups, vowing to regain their homeland. At the same time, Israel began establishing settlements.
The 1970s saw a wave of Palestinian terrorism. In 1972, at the Munich Olympics, armed militants seized the Israeli team and killed 11 athletes. Israel responded with a covert campaign of targeted assassinations, Operation Wrath.
In 1973, Egypt and Syria launched the Yom Kippur War. Their surprise offensives tore across the sands and skies of Sinai and the Golan. Intense battles raged for weeks, with heavy losses on both sides. Ceasefires eventually took hold, boosting Arab morale but reinforcing Israeli.
In the late 1970s, landmark peace agreements reshaped regional relations and offered new hope for dialogue and cooperation.
In 4, Israel's 1982 Lebanon invasion aimed to expel PLO forces. It led to the Sabra and Shatila massacre by Allied militias, killing hundreds to thousands of Palestinian civilians. Palestinians spread Israel Kuratories.
First Intifada was a Palestinian uprising against occupation. For years, youths armed mainly with stones faced soldiers and tear gas in the streets. The clashes claimed more than 1,000 Palestinian lives and about 160 Israelis. Images of defiance and loss drew global attention.
People, new agreements inspired hope for peace and mutual understanding among nations.
Hamas suicide bombings in the 1990s, like the 1994 Hebron massacre by an Israeli settler, eroded trust. Rabin's 1995 assassination further stalled progress.
The Second Intifada began in 2000 following Ariel Sharon's visit to the Temple Mount, known to Muslims as the Al-Aqsa compound. The ensuing 5 years of conflict resulted in approximately 3,300 Palestinian and 1,000 Israeli deaths.
Construction barrier penting up an appointment. Israel built a separation barrier in 2002 for security against attacks. Palestinians called it an apartheid wall, annexing land and restricting movement.
In 2005, Israel disengaged from Gaza, evacuating its settlements and pulling out its troops. For many in Israel, the withdrawal was seen as a step toward peace. But after the Palestinian elections the following year, Hamas gained control of the Strip, setting a new and volatile course.
The 2008 to 2009 Gaza war, known in Israel as Operation Cast Lead, erupted after a surge of rocket attacks on southern Israeli towns. Over the course of 3 weeks, Israeli airstrikes and artillery pounded.
The 2010 Gaza flotilla raid killed 9 activists. Israel defended the operation as stopping arms from reaching Hamas. International observers condemned the boarding as excessive force against aid ships.
In 2012, Palestine gained United Nations observer state status, a symbolic step toward recognition. But a decade later, new settlements continued to rise in the West Bank, regarded as illegal under international law by most nations, yet defended by Israel as vital for security.
We ask. In 2014, regional conflict led to heavy losses and humanitarian challenges, prompting global concern and UN investigations.
In 2018, thousands of Palestinians gathered along Gaza's perimeter for what became known as the Great March of Return. Weeks of demonstrations called for an end to the blockade and the right of refugees to go back to homes lost in 1948. Israeli forces responded with live fire, tear gas, and
Alanada. The 2021 escalation involved evictions in Sheikh Jarrah and Al-Aqsa clashes, leading to Gaza rocket fire and Israeli strikes. Before the Gaza involves intercept turns and missiles, and
On October 7, 2023, Hamas launched a surprise attack, killing 1,200 Israelis and taking hostages. Israel responded with a Gaza siege and invasion.
The 2023 to 2024 Gaza war caused over 40,000 Palestinian deaths, according to local health authorities. Weeks of airstrikes and rocket fire leveled neighborhoods and overwhelmed hospitals. Civilians on both sides grieved their losses as the fight.
In January 2025, Israeli airstrikes in Gaza killed dozens and left entire neighborhoods in ruins. Emergency crews worked through thick smoke and falling debris to pull survivors from the wreckage. Amid the devastation, negotiators met under heavy security.
February 2025 saw a tenuous ceasefire, allowing humanitarian aid and some returns, though underlying tensions persisted.
In March 2025, Israel relaunched ground operations in Gaza, retaking areas like Rafah, displacing civilians without prior warnings.
Plane. April 2025 brought mass anti-war protests in Israel, with hostage families demanding accountability and policy changes.
In May 2025, United Nations experts warned that Gaza could face outright annihilation. Weeks of bombardment left neighborhoods in ruins as broader offensives marched on the enclave. At the same time, anti-government unrest erupted across Israel, swelling into the largest street protests in the state's history.
In June 2025's Operation Arnon rescued 4 Israeli hostages, but killed over 270 Palestinians. In response, the United Nations adopted Resolution 2735, demanding a ceasefire.
In July 2025, involved new evacuations in Gaza and stalled U.S. brokered talks over troop presence and hostage releases.
As of October 2025, tensions and unrest persisted in some areas as communities continued to seek calm and understanding.
Despite decades of conflict, voices on both sides call for a two-state solution, emphasizing mutual recognition and an end to violence.
The path to peace remains elusive, but dialogue and international efforts offer hope for Israelis and Palestinians alike.